In the year 121, in the city of Rome, a boy was born into a family of wealth and influence. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He had no reason to become emperor. He had no reason to become a philosopher. He had every reason to live a comfortable, forgettable life. Instead, he became the most powerful man in the world and spent that power asking himself, quietly, every single night, whether he was worthy of it. From childhood, Marcus was drawn not to power, but to ideas. He studied rhetoric, law, and above all, philosophy. At 17, he discovered the Stoics, a school of thought that taught that the only true good is virtue, that the only true freedom is mastery of the mind. He wore a rough philosopher's cloak instead of his noble robes. He slept on a hard mat. He was practicing, even then, the life he would one day try to live as emperor. When Marcus was 17, the Emperor Hadrian chose him as a future heir. He was adopted by Antoninus Pius, who became his father and teacher. For 23 years, Marcus watched and waited and learned how an empire works, how power corrupts, how good men can fail when they stop paying attention to their own souls. He took careful notes, not about the empire, about himself. In the year 161, Marcus Aurelius became emperor of Rome. He was 40 years old. He did not want the throne. He said so. He asked to share power with his brother Lucius Verus, so that no single man would carry the weight alone. His first act as emperor was an act of humility. His second was to face a plague that had already killed millions. His third was a war on the northern frontier that would last the rest of his life. For nearly 2 decades, Marcus Aurelius spent more time on the Danube frontier than in Rome. Germanic tribes crossed the river. Village burned. Soldiers died in the cold mud far from home. He led campaigns not from a comfortable palace, but from a tent, wearing armor, eating soldiers' rations. The most powerful man in the world, cold, tired, far from his family, still asking himself every night what kind of man he was. The Antonine Plague swept through the empire like a dark tide. 5 million dead. City streets emptied. Armies weakened. Marcus organized relief efforts, distributed food, buried the poor himself when no one else would. He wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you. Do not wish for what has not happened. Accept what is." This was not resignation. This was the Stoic warrior's answer to a world that cannot be controlled, only faced. At night, after the councils and the campaigns and the decisions that moved armies and changed borders, Marcus Aurelius sat alone and wrote. Not proclamations, not history, not letters to be read by others. He wrote to himself, notes, reminders, private arguments with his own weaknesses. He called the work simply, to himself. We call it the Meditations. It was never meant to be published. It was a man trying every day to be better than he was the day before. The Meditations is unlike any book ever written by a ruler. There is no glory in it, no triumph, no self-congratulation. It is full of doubt, full of failure, full of a man catching himself being petty, impatient, afraid, and forcing himself to start again. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength." He wrote this not for posterity. He wrote it because he needed to hear it himself. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius practiced what the Stoics called the premeditation of adversity. He would imagine everything that could go wrong that day: insults, failures, ingratitude, loss. Not to frighten himself, to prepare himself, so that when difficulty came, and it always came, he would not be surprised. He would not react. He would respond. There is a difference. One is a wave. The other is a man standing in the water. Marcus Aurelius believed that power was a test, not a reward. He wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of power you have not yet won. But equally, do not cling to power you hold now." He freed slaves. He improved conditions for the poor. He reformed laws to protect women and children. He did these things not because they were popular. He did them because they were right. He knew the difference, and he kept asking himself which side of that line he stood on. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This has become perhaps his most quoted idea. It means every obstacle is also an instruction. Every difficulty reveals something about you, your character, your values, your capacity. A general who loses a battle and learns from it is stronger than one who wins and learns nothing. Marcus Aurelius lost many battles. He never stopped learning. The Stoics taught that we are all part of one body, humanity. To harm another is to harm yourself. To serve others is to serve the whole. Marcus wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." He governed not as a master, but as a steward. Everything he had, the throne, the armies, the treasury, he held in trust, not ownership. He would give it all back. He was already planning how. In the winter of 180, Marcus Aurelius was dying. He was 58 years old, on campaign at Vindobona, the city we now call Vienna. The plague had returned. His body was failing. He refused to leave his soldiers. He had always refused to leave his soldiers. When his officers urged him to rest, to return to Rome, he shook his head. A general does not abandon his post. A Stoic does not flee from what is. As he was dying, his officers gathered around him. They asked what they should do. He told them to go to the rising sun, for he was already setting. When they wept, he reminded them, "Why do you weep for me? Think rather of the plague, and of the fate shared by all." He had spent his whole life trying not to make his own suffering the center of the story. Even at the end, he succeeded. Marcus Aurelius left behind an empire that functioned, laws that were just, a treasury that was sound, and a small book of private notes that nobody was supposed to read. The meditation survived because someone thought it was too important to lose. It has been read continuously for 1,800 years. Every person who has ever felt the gap between who they are and who they want to be, every person who has woken up, failed, and tried again, has found something of themselves in those pages. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who harmed you." He was not a saint. He made mistakes. He had a son who became a monster. He never fully conquered his own impatience or his own grief. But he kept trying, every morning, every night, until the last night of all. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength. Marcus Aurelius. 121 to 180.